We're going to talk about the basis inventory program. What I would like to point out is just some of the features. We have about half an hour, so we'll go through about 20-25 minutes, and then if anybody has questions, we will address them at that time. So the idea of the basis inventory program is that it was designed to be a complement to any person that uses Sage300 and has basic inventory needs. For example, we focus on anything that has to do with core functions of inventory management. So for example, we do inventory counting. We do have a way to do bin tracking, but we also do we also match with ORCID bin tracking if necessary. So we have two options when it comes to bin tracking, either using the basis one, which is the basic one, or if you want more advanced and we integrate with ORCID bin tracking, then we do label printing, order shipping, PO receiving. So most of what a lot of companies need, we don't do production, we don't do advanced functionality, but we focus on things that we figure about 80% of businesses that have inventory and that want to track it need. Just to set up the landscape here, the way the program works is that in Sage, it's actually contained within the Sage program. We use the SDK, so we can see our two programs, Basis and Prism. Basis is the inventory management, and Prism is an order entry system. We won't be talking about Prism today, that will be the subject of a different webinar. And then we also have a web portal where the data is actually transiting between Sage300 and the mobile device. And I'll talk about the mobile device in a few minutes, but basically the web portal is just a dashboard and then a way to view all the transactions on a website. That's independent from Sage, but that's the way that the path takes. Whenever we do something in Basis, it actually goes to the web portal for the device to talk to it. So when it comes to the device, the kind of device that we use is iOS devices. So for example, what I have on the screen right now is an iPod Touch that's just being projected from my desk here. And the Basis program is resident directly on the device. In terms of the device, we made the choice of going to iOS about 5 years ago when we realized the cost saving that were possible to achieve, and also the ease of use and the familiarity. We still are compatible with some Motorola and Windows mobile device, but we try to avoid them at all costs because they've been discontinued by Microsoft. So we're focusing on iOS devices. And in terms of scanning options, what I'm going to bring on the screen here is just a list of the type of scanners that we work. We're not limited to those. Any Bluetooth scanner will actually function with the program. So this is one option. This is made by Socket Technology in the US. This is a pretty good scanner. That's basically a Bluetooth scanner that would work with the device and send the information that gets scanned. Obviously, the data and the processing is done on the iOS device. But in terms of scanning technology, we use either that. This is one option. This is another option, less expensive. So there's different price range. For example, this one is around $300. This one is around $100. We have something a lot more rugged if you wanted to be able to scan something like at a 6 feet distance. Those are long range scanners. They're quite expensive, $1,300. And then one of the scanner that's actually been the most popular lately is a sled that Honeywell has made that allows you to open the top here, insert an iPod Touch or an iPhone, and then close it, and at the top here we have a barcode scanner. So this is actually what I have on my desk, and this is what I'm going to be demoing with. So what you see on the screen here is an iPod Touch, but it's inside of a sled. So the benefit of this is that it's actually a very good scan engine. It's a 2D bar. It'll scan 2D barcodes, which we support. And it's also, you have the ability to just do it all in one, so you don't have to have two separate devices. So I just wanted to lay the landscape so that you understand what I'm talking about when I'm describing the technology that we're using. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and just highlight each of the modules and what they do, just to get an idea of how we basically think through the program. So one of the things that we do that quite a few of our customers are buying the program for is to be able to do physical inventory count. So obviously physical inventory count is a big thing. Companies do it regularly, yearly, monthly, weekly. You can do full cycle count, you can do full count. So basically the way that it works is we work in tandem with the Sage300 physical inventory module. So the first part of the process would be to go to the physical inventory module of Sage and generate a worksheet. So then we basically take that worksheet, and from there we're able to start scanning the product. So the main difference here is the process is the same, where basically in Sage you would take the worksheet, you would export it, and then you would send your counters to go around and count. Then you would go back and you key in all that information. So the main difference here is once you've done your worksheet, you would go to your device. Each user would be logged in. We keep track of every single scan and every single user, so we know who did what. So now that I'm logged in, I would go to the inventory module, and I would get started on the inventory counting module. So here there's a few options before I get started. If I'm tracking my locations, by location we mean bin location. Sage300 calls location the warehouse. We actually call the warehouse. It's just a bit of housekeeping here. So if I'm tracking my locations, I can activate some setting that'll force me. So for example, I can say I want to have a location. It's mandatory. I can't scan anything without a location. And I have a few other options. Autofill location is basically where I would be able to just get automatically the location from basis, or clear location after scan would be where I want to scan every single item in a different location. Let's just keep it simple and just scan the location. And then the next thing, I would actually go and scan my item number. So here when I scan my item number, this item is not serialized or lot number, so it jumped directly to the quantity. So what if we had a team of 2, somebody else would be counting. Otherwise I would put down my device and then start counting how many I have of an item and just accept it. As soon as I accept it, it'll actually show me on the device that one was scanned into this location, and I can go on to the next item. One of the options as well is to go on to automatic mode. So this little toggle here allows me to go through, and now I can scan item into this location, and I don't have to do anything. As quickly as I can scan them, it's basically adding them to my counts. So if I scan an item and that's the first time I scan it, and I haven't scanned it before, it'll go green. If I've scanned it before, it'll go yellow. And if I scan something that that's not in my inventory, or that's the wrong barcode, it's gonna go red and make noises accordingly. So here I can see what I've scanned so far. And it's a very simple process. If we make a mistake, it's an iOS device, so the same functionality happens everywhere. All I would have to do is swipe from left to right here to delete, and that would allow me to just go ahead and continue. So if everything is good here, I'm going to hit send, and what that's going to do is I'm actually going to send it to a cloud server where it's going to be sitting for review. So as I'm doing this, I can have multiple people counting. All they do is they go scan, 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 count, send to the cloud, and that's it. So basically, as I'm scanning and sending to the cloud, that information gets gathered up onto this website here, where at any time, if I want to, I can go into scanned inventory and review it here. But easier than that, I can also go into my inventory screen of Sage. One thing to make clear here is that the counts that we're bringing in are what we are sending and what we're bringing to the Sage server is actually not in the Sage database yet. The purpose of that is that so it doesn't affect the Sage database. It's actually completely done outside. It's in the same instance, but it's a different database. And what it does, it'll show you what you're supposed to have versus what you counted. And there's a simple screen that shows you everything that you're over goes blue, under is red, and if you're bang on, it's green. So it's an easy screen that just allows you to see everything that you're scanning. And again, it's important to highlight that this is not in the Sage database. Right now, this is still sitting in the basis database. From here, I can go and view any details. So for example, if I have this item and I've scanned it in multiple locations, I can actually see that. If I forget a location, I can still update my location. So as I'm doing stuff here, again, this is not affecting Sage. This is just affecting the basis database. Once everything is good and we're happy with the counts, the last step would be to go into, we could do reports. So I can do a report of what I've scanned. I can also do a report of what I haven't scanned. And when I'm done with my count and I printed my report and everything is good, then the last step would just go back to data transfer and update the count. So very simple process. It's done outside of Sage, and by design it's created so that you can do everything outside of Sage, and then once you're done and you're happy with your count, the last step would be to just go back and import your counted quantity. We have two ways to import. One is to import your counted quantity as to just populate the worksheet, so that would do exactly the same as if you had manually gone through and entered the information for each of the items. So you count 6 of these and 4 of these. If you went to do it to the inventory worksheet from the inventory module, you'd be able to enter the quantities. Here, what's going to happen if you click import quantity, the system will just import everything that you've scanned automatically. So saves you the time having to re-enter everything. Obviously, that's a big one. The other option we have is we have the option to import as an adjustment. And the reason we have the option to import as an adjustment is that in some cases, the inventory import worksheet module of Sage does not work. What I mean by that is that you need to have a discrepancy to be able to make a change in the Sage database, in the Sage worksheet. So if you're using serialized inventory, for example, and you had a quantity of 1 of an item, and Sage is saying that the serial number is 12345, and you went through and scanned an item with the serial number 12346, we do have a discrepancy. In terms of quantity, we don't have a discrepancy because we only had 1, and the 1 is actually the one that we had. But we do have a discrepancy because it's the wrong serial number. Going through the worksheet, you're not able to make a change because as far as the system is concerned, there is no discrepancy. You had 1 and you counted 1. But the problem is that you're not able to adjust the serial number. The only way to do the serial number would be to do a physical inventory adjustment. So by doing an adjustment, you can put a quantity of -1 for the serial number that you do have, and a quantity of +1 for the one that you did scan. The one that you don't have, you would make negative, and the one that you do have, you would make positive. So that's why we have the option to import as an adjustment. And it's completely optional. You can always import as adjustment, or, well, you always have to import as adjustment if you're doing lot tracking or serialized inventory, but otherwise the worksheet works quite well as well. So that's the inventory count. And again, what I just did could have worked for a full count or for a partial count. And if I'm counting and I'm incorporated to ORCID bin tracking, then what the inventory process will do is we'll actually update the bins automatically once we re-import the inventory. So there is a different way to import if you're working with bin tracking. I'm not going to cover that on this webinar, but I'd be happy to demo it to anybody that would be interested. So just quickly, some of the other functionality that we have on the inventory module is we have some functions that were created specifically to manage inventory. So for example, we can do a transfer or a receipt through this module here. And basically that would be if you're transferring item from one location to another one bin to another one, if you're using ORCID bin tracking and you want to update Sage, or from one warehouse to another one. Or if you're just receiving production, for example, if you're producing some goods and you just want to receive the quantity, you can do it through this module here, and you have the option to post it or just leave it as an open transaction that you can post yourself. We also have a module that allows you to bulk import assemblies. So what that is for is if you're creating assemblies in Sage, you know that you can only do them one at a time. You have to pick the bill of materials and then it'll produce the goods. We have an option where you can go through the scanner and scan a bunch of items that you're producing and then send them here. And what that would do is that would list all the assemblies. You can even scan the bill of material or enter the bill of material directly on the device when you know which one you're using. And in one click, you can import as many as you've produced. So that prevents you from having to go and do one at a time. So that's the inventory module. Again, we have limited time, so I'm not going to go too much in detail. I just want to mention what's there. So then we're going to go into the order processing module. So how the order processing module is, we can automatically send every single order that gets produced in Sage, we can send it out to a cloud if we wanted to, and then they would be processed on the scanner. We also have the ability to create orders directly onto the system here. So what this module here that I'm opening is an order entry screen that was mimicked after the Sage order entry screen. So if I do a quick order here just to illustrate what I'm doing here. So as soon as I create an order, this would be exactly the same process as if I was to create the order in Sage. So this, nothing different here. The reason we actually have both options is that although we do have this order entry module, some people use a customized order entry that would have been modified by another third party, in which case you could use the basis one. So if you were using a different one, then you would use some of the automatic ways. So we have a way to just manually export a range of orders, or we can have a trigger that every time an order gets created, it automatically gets sent to basis. So there's different options. But because I've taken here the basic option, basically what happens when I click post this order, what will happen is this order will be exported to basis in terms of being able to be seen from the scanner. So let me just do that here. So as soon as the order is exported, then it becomes available to the scanner. So I'm actually able to go and see the orders directly from the portal here. So any of these orders, this is the one that I just exported here. Now, if I wanted to do them, all I would do is I would go onto the mobile device. So typically what we do is we'll add a barcode onto the report that comes out of the order, so it actually can be scanned, or we can have a report of the orders that need to be picked. And as soon as this order gets scanned, unless you put the right number, when you pull this order, it then gets available to be scanned on the scanner, and then a user would just go around the warehouse and scan the items that get put on the order. So in this case, I scan and it's showing me that I need 5. I can also activate an option just like in inventory that would force me to scan every item. So if I do that now, every time I scan an item, what will happen is that the scanner will actually change colors. So I needed 5 and I have 1. So it goes yellow, and as I'm scanning the other ones, when it gets to the full count, it will basically tell me that the order has been completed, and it will turn green. So very simple process. In this case, I didn't scan any bin location, but had I had bin location, you would have forced me to scan them. I can also do a call at any time for an order to see where my items are, because we are actually doing all the bin locations from the scanner. So I'm able to see where it was from, and if I select a location here, actually, it would have selected which location I'm picking it from. But the bottom line is, as soon as I'm done picking the order, the idea is I would send it back to Sage. So actually, no, I'm sending it back to our scanner. So you can see on the portal that the orders change. So the portal can be used as a dashboard where you see the different statuses of the order. And then as far as the system here is concerned, I'm able to see the orders from that are in the system. And all I have to do to just complete the process is receive them. And that what that will do is that it will automatically create a shipment when this order gets picked, and we have the option to print the packing slip directly from here. So I haven't imported it yet, but basically that's the process of doing an order. Very simple. You create the order in Sage, you go around and scan it. As soon as you scan it, it comes into the system. From here, you can just go ahead and import it back. It will create the shipment for you. You'll print the packing slip, and you'll still have to do the invoice. We actually do not do any financial transactions, so we do not create an invoice for you. So that is a process of creating an order, pretty straightforward. Again, you can have multiple people scanning multiple orders. You can have multiple people scanning the same orders. That can all be managed from the device and from the portal. And then in Sage, you're able to go and see any order that's pending and that's being picked as you're picking it. The purchase order process is exactly the same. We have the ability to just enter purchase orders. Again, same idea. We actually copied the container that allows you to click the order. And same idea, when you post the order, it will prompt you to export the order to Basis. Or you can also set it up that automatically every time you create a PO, it would automatically get sent to Basis. And similarly, we would be able to see it on the same portal. Everything is actually located in the same place. So in this case, I would just go to Basis Purchase Orders. And from the Basis Purchase Order screen, I'd be able to see all the purchase orders that are being processed. And from here, same idea here, I would just go in. Again, we would actually add a PO number. We would actually add a barcode onto the PO as we are, so that it would make it easier to scan. And then in this case here, this is a PO that was green here, so I've actually already processed it. So it's showing me that it comes back and illustrates the fact that it's already been picked. The fact that it's blue here is because we actually needed 2 and we've scanned 3, so it actually shows me as blue. So the status of the colors is yellow is when I'm below the quantity that I'm supposed to get, green is bang on, and blue is over. So again, same idea. I'm able to pull orders here, and all this information actually gets stored on the cloud so that it can always go and be viewed later on to see who scanned what and who did what. We also have from the cloud the ability to see all the locations. This is where the program is looking for. Whenever you click on check location, it actually makes a call and shows you where the items are located. So again, fairly basic program, but very powerful. Great if you're doing inventory count. It'll actually save you the 50 to 75% of the actual time that it takes to do the count. It's a very straightforward process. the training, because they're familiar iOS devices, the training gets done and can get completed in half an hour for the users, or even less, depending on how many functions we want. And then the only other functions that we have, I'll just point out a few of them. From the cloud server, we have the ability to go to our inventory listing. From here, you can print barcodes. So there is a bunch of ways to print barcodes, either for single items or for purchase order. For example, here I can pick 2 or 3 items and just generate print file. Because it's a web-based program, it actually doesn't print directly from the generate print file. There is one more click that you have to do here to actually go and get the file and print it. But again, a very simple, very straightforward process. So just as a recap, in inventory, we do physical count, cycle count, we do receipts, we do transfers, we do assembly import for production. On the order processing side, we basically allows you to process our orders, ship them out, receive them. On the POs, we allow you to export the POs, receive the POs, scan barcodes as you receive POs. We also have the ability to print barcodes for outstanding POs. And then when you receive them, it'll create the receipt. So the purchase order entry import will create the receipt. The sales order import will create the shipment. And the inventory will create the inventory adjustment that you will post, or it'll create the discrepancy report that you will have to go and post as well in Sage. Just to repeat, we don't do any financial transaction, we just do the actual physical manipulation of the inventory, and we give you the ability to do that through the scanner. Any of the scanners work. You can have a combination of scanners. You can have an iPhone, you can have an iPod Touch. So the beauty of this is actually at inventory time, if you wanted to have a few more users, you could just have users use their own iPhone, download the program. We rent scanners that they can, inexpensive scanner that they can pair to their iPhone, and then give them the ability to do the physical count. So it makes it fairly flexible and inexpensive, but in the sense that you don't have to have the expensive technology, the expensive scanner. We have scanners as low as $25 a week for rent, or as low as $100 to actually purchase. So that covers pretty well the basis program. Just going to say a few words about the Prism program. I'm not going to demo it. I'm just going to explain what it is, just in case anybody would like to contact me for a demo on Prism. Prism is designed to have salespeople on the road or at trade shows create orders, and those orders get imported as open orders in Sage. That works on an iPad. You can have catalogs, you can have images. It's actually quite powerful. It's quite pretty in terms of how it allows users to manage their sales. And it also creates a maintenance-free website that just allows you to create a website directly from the Prism portal. So whenever we have a customer that onboards with Prism, we enable a website that gets created automatically whether they want it or not, and it's just a way for them to very easily have a website. So just again, very quickly, this is a Prism app. We have catalogs. The catalogs have what we call hotspots, so I can tap on any item and it'll allow me to order it. Very powerful, very simple, very user-friendly. And again, the idea was not to demo it to this, so I'm not going to demo it, but if there is any interest, I would be happy to do so. So at this time, I'm just going to open the floor for questions. If there is any questions, I'll just give me a second to take a look at the list here. Okay, I don't see any questions, so okay, so I would just like to thank everyone for attending the webinar, and if my email is albert@barcodeapps.com, or you can contact your partners and they'll be happy to put you in contact or answer any question that you have. And once again, I thank everybody for attending today.